Great. So, thanks, coaches, for being here, joining us live. There will be a recording of this for those who are unable to make it. Really, really excited about what you're going to see. I met Josh. He reached out to me. He had presented to the FPP, some advisors, as well as other advisor groups. I think FPA as well, and so I caught wind of it, and we connected. And this is an ideal solution for an area that we're just not very good at. In practice, I don't think I ever had a conversation in 20 years with someone about their debt and how to manage that. Certainly aware of some of the approaches, but just didn't have that occasion arise where working with widowed folks, if you've been a coach for a while, you know many of them are suffering or are suffering unnecessarily because of the debt load they're carrying. Income is slashed, and yet those debts, right, those bills still have to be paid. And so we can bring some incredible value to them now, where we probably have been a little shy in that area. And I'm speaking personally. I would reach out to and provide a link to some credit group who may or may not be all they're cracked up to be. And I don't know what kind of, service they ended up providing, our client. And so we now have a solution for that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Josh, and Josh will take it away. So thank you for being here again, Josh.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me. And thank you all for hopping in. I think really when we look at CFPs in general, as Chris said, debt is not something that usually comes up for high net worth clients. And at the same time, for many Americans, I'm going to share my screen real quick. Debt is a number one issue. And right now, there's over 90 million people who have credit card debt, and they're carrying a balance from month to month. Last year, credit card debt hit an all-time high at $1.2 trillion dollars, and minimum payments are being optimized to keep people in debt. And there's actually a disclosure that's required from an act in 2009 that says you actually have to say on the statement how long it will take you to pay off a credit card. And actually what we've seen, and some people have sent me this, sometimes it actually says, if you make the minimum payments, you'll never pay off this debt. And then usually what you'll see is it'll take 100 years or more. And so lenders have gotten really good at optimizing for how do we keep someone making the minimum payment while also reducing our risk. And so when you just look at the average American or the average household that has about $11,000 of credit card debt, and then that gets accentuated when we're working with widows who are going through financial trauma, as you know, this is a massive issue for many people. And so the issue when it comes to debt solutions, and actually to back up a little bit, in the most ideal world, we could just recommend the debt snowball and the debt avalanche. And the reality is that most consumers do not have, or many consumers do not have the cash flow to be able to support a debt snowball and a debt avalanche. And we know this because we actually automated the debt snowball where we said, we're going to take money out of your account on this day and pay your lowest balance or pay your highest interest rate. And what we found was that people would NSF at about 3 and 4 months in. And it was mainly caused by the fact that people didn't have the cash flow. Regardless of their income, they could have $100,000 of income, they could have $40,000 of income. For people that are struggling with debt, for people that are experiencing hardship, it's often hard for them to just stay above water and have even cash flow. And so from an advisor standpoint, the snowball and the avalanche is generally the safest option simply because the debt solution space is predatory. Providers out there, they're prioritizing profit over helping consumers. And even if you go to an advice website like Credit Karma or NerdWallet, all of the content marketing on there is optimized to getting you into more loans and into more credit cards. And then if you look at industries like debt settlement, credit repair, I mean, they do not care about the situation that your clients are in. They have highly incentivized sales teams that are focused on getting them into their products, and there's no wonder this is a $2 billion industry. But then there are good providers out there like credit counseling agencies. There are good lenders that don't have predatory terms. That being said, oftentimes they're really focused on one product, and so they're not holistic. And so by nature, they're oftentimes recommending the product that they have access to sell. And so even if they're a good provider, oftentimes they can't make an unbiased recommendation like you can. And so, because the solution space is predatory and because providers are conflicted, many financial professionals are hesitant to recommend these products. And so let's talk about our approach and why we created Budge. So Budge is a free tool that streamlines the debt recommendation process. And it takes a process that could take 10, 15 minutes, maybe even longer, and really boils it down to just a matter of minutes. And there's three parts of it. So first, we assess the client situation. So that includes entering in debts and answering a few situations that help us understand what's the right debt solution for this client. Is it the debt snowball? Is it nonprofit credit counseling? Or is it a personal loan? Once we've answered questions and understood the situation, it identifies automatically what's the right solution. So we look at factors like pay down time. We look at factors like total amount of interest paid and what's the minimum payment that will be required on a monthly basis. And furthermore, being able to actually understand what are the pros and cons of that solution. For example, the debt snowball and the avalanche are incredible solutions for people that have the extra cash flow to pay down their debt. But for people that are really tight on cash flow, maybe it's worth exploring credit counseling, even if the client would have to be required to close a credit card in order to participate, but they get a concession of 30% interest rates down to 6%. And then once we've identified what's the right solution, it's actually connecting them with a trusted provider. And we've done tons of due diligence going through debt solution providers to figure out who are the good players in the space that are going to be able to provide the same amount of focus on your clients that they deserve and that you're providing to them. So that's a really quick overview of what the Budge product is, and what our process is and why we exist. And what I want to do now is give a quick demo of the product so you can understand. You can actually walk away from this call understanding how to use it and how to make recommendations to your clients who have debt based off their situation in a pretty quick turnaround. So this is the Budge Coach Console, and we have two different types of accounts. We have a coach account and we have a client account. The coach account can invite clients to the platform. They can also manage the client's account. So you can actually, if you're on the phone with them and say they're not tech friendly, you can actually go in, fill out their debts, answer the questions, or after your discovery meeting and you've understood that debt's an issue, you can actually send this to them as homework that they can use to prepare for this, either coaching session one or coaching session two, based off of the client that you're working with. And so from here, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to create an account for one of the clients you're working with. You simply click Add Account, and then you type in their email, and then you choose how you'd like to invite them. So you can send them an email. That will send a direct invitation for them to create an account. You can get a link that you can send them, or you can click Don't create a link, and that's actually just going to create their account for them, and it's going to give you a link, or it's going to give you access to their account without actually sending them a full invite. Perfect. And now you can actually see the status of the person that we just created. So we can see some of these users up here that I've used for test accounts. I've entered debts through the Coach Console. They've answered the questions. They've done the homework, but they haven't created an account yet. So this implies basically that I, as the coach, went in and did these steps, but the client hasn't actually logged in yet. So from here, I'm going to click View Account on the new account that we just created. And now this is the client experience. And really, there's three steps with Budge, as I mentioned. And this isn't directly aligned with what I was talking about, but this is the process. You enter debts, you answer questions, and then we show the trusted and vetted debt solutions. So from here, what we're going to do is enter in the debts. And so again, you can do this with the client, or you can have the client do this separately. But we're going to enter in a few different types of debt here. We'll do a Chase Sapphire at 12,000, interest rate maybe 27%, payment amount at 350. We're going to choose credit card. That enters the first debt. Let's do a Nelnet student loan at 22. And we'll say that's at an 8% interest rate and a $350 minimum payment. I guess I did both at 350, but that's okay. We'll do let's do a collection. So maybe we'll call it Wells Fargo collection at 7,562, interest rate 24%. We'll say at a $200 payment, we'll choose collection. And then let's do one more account. We'll do a city double cash at 7,500, 22%, and we'll say that's a $175, or maybe we'll do a $250 payment. Perfect. So we've added the debts. It's all going to be organized up here at the top. So we have total debt, unsecured debt, secured debt, and monthly payments. The reason why we have it broken down by unsecured and secured debts is basically because different debt solutions support different types of debts. So credit counseling programs, personal loans for consolidation, those work really well for unsecured debt, whereas secured debt, there's not necessarily as many debt relief programs for that category, except for student loans, which fit somewhere in the middle. From there, we click next, and now we answer questions about the client situation. So what's your estimated credit score? And what we're doing right now is we have the context around the debts, but we need to figure out what's the context around their actual situation. So we're going to say they have a fair credit score, they have maybe full-time income, how much extra money can they put towards their debt? So at this point, you understand their income, you understand their assets and liability, and you might know, okay, this person probably has maybe an extra $50 per month that they can put towards their debt. Maybe they have zero. Whatever the case is, you can put that number in here, and this will be used to calculate for things like the snowball and the avalanche. Have you declared bankruptcy before? Are you currently late on a credit card or loan? Maybe this consumer is 30 days late. And are you worried about missing upcoming payments? So this is a especially relevant question where a credit score is a 45-day lagging indicator. And so just because their credit score could be excellent, they could be in financial distress. So when we're making a recommendation, understanding if they're worried about missing an upcoming payment tells us a little bit more around what we should be recommending. So we'll say this person is worried. And then how do you describe your cash flow? I have trouble covering my monthly expenses. I cover my monthly expenses, but it feels tight, or I feel comfortable with what's left over. Most likely, if we're going through a debt app, they're in one of these first two buckets, which is I'm having trouble covering my monthly expenses, or I cover them, but it feels tight. Let's go with someone they're in financial distress, they're experiencing hardship, and so they're having trouble covering their monthly expenses.
Josh, if I just could interject, those last two questions are actually questions that we ask in our financial wellness survey that coaches should be getting from the client. So they actually have some of that information that they need to input right from the survey.
Amazing. Yeah, so that's great. You can, if you're going ahead of time and filling it out for the client, that's there. And if not, as you're walking them through it, you're actually able to fill that out and give the feedback to show that ultimately like you're listening because you're their planner. So this is the output of what we just put in. So the minimum payment, 74 months. Usually it's going to be much more than that, but we just estimated on what those minimum payments were. $23,000 of interest and $800 minimum payment. The program that was recommended here was the debt management plan, and the reason for that is because that we indicated that this person is having trouble covering their monthly expenses and that they're worried about missing upcoming payments. And that generally points us that, hey, maybe they're going to actually have trouble with a snowball or an avalanche. So connecting them with a certified nonprofit credit counselor could be the right approach here. I'm going to play around with the questions just to show how the algorithm will change based off of the person's situation. But in this case, the debt management plan was recommended because the consumer was in that situation. To compare here, the payoff time, 53 months, $5,000 of interest, and then they're getting about $280 of cash flow relief on the estimated payment. Whereas if you were to go to the snowball or the avalanche here, they're actually having to pay more while they're already underwater on their payments. And then the personal loan wasn't recommended because they're currently late. And I mean, even if you look at the estimated interest, it's 26,000 compared to 23,000 on the minimum payment. And that's simply because this consumer doesn't have the best credit score or is late. And so let's take a quick look into the debt management plan And I'm going to talk a little bit about this program because I think it's so important for people that are experiencing financial hardship. And then we're going to play with the questionnaire here and show like when's the snowball and avalanche recommended compared to a debt management plan. So a debt management plan, it's offered by certified nonprofit credit counselors. The industry trade group is the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. There's about 30 member agencies that have gone through an 18-point inspection from the certification board, and they're all certified nonprofits. So what makes this program so valuable is they can actually reduce, they have partnerships with lenders to help reduce interest rates for clients who are experiencing financial hardships. From the client perspective, this is valuable because it creates instant relief while also creating a target debt-free date with a lower payment. So, hey, instead of this card being paid off in 100 years, you know that if you make these payments for 3 to 5 years, the amount's going to the you're going to become debt free in that time period. And they do that by lowering the interest rates, oftentimes from what we're seeing is 30% all the way down to 8% or less. And for people experiencing really high hardship or extreme hardship, those rates can go down to as low as 0%. Um, it has the benefit of consolidating multiple debts into one lower payment. And so instead of paying the lenders, you pay the credit counseling agency that then pays the lenders. This is very different than the predatory, oftentimes more predatory debt settlement industry, which says, pay us, we're going to hold the money while you go further into collect, charge off and then collections, and then they attempt to negotiate with lenders. The difference here is these nonprofits have relationships with over 1,000 different lenders, and they're actually, before the program starts, they're approaching the lenders and saying, hey, we think this person qualifies for these concessions. Will you confirm? There's no minimum credit score requirement required. And then for many people who are in the program, they see their credit improve over the life of the program because ultimately they're building up that payment history. That being said, there are some downsides with this program. First, it only works with unsecured debt, so it won't support auto loans, student loans, um, etc., mortgages. But it does work with credit cards, and it also supports many personal loans and collections. It also requires closing the participating credit card accounts. And so uh, basically, the deal here from a lender perspective, the benefit that the lender is getting is that this person is at risk of going into default, but they're enrolling in this program, and I'm going to be able to make sure that I'm collecting what was lent through the credit card. From a consumer perspective and from a coach perspective, oftentimes this is beneficial because for people that are having spending problems, it's better for them to close the accounts. Now, for people that were recently widowed, there's obviously nuances with this because they're oftentimes using their credit cards because of a major life event. And so there are benefits maybe in closing a few of the accounts if we want to create the relief. That being said, it's really up to you and the credit counseling agency to help determine like what's the best path forward when it comes to closing credit cards and participating in these programs. Regardless of enrollment in these programs, the client has to have positive cash flow in order to enroll into it. And that's positive cash flow after the interest rate concessions. So if they were paying the $800 a month and that was their monthly payments on all their accounts, and after concessions, it went down to say $400. As a result, they would need to have positive cash flow at the $400 rate or $400 monthly payment amount. It can negatively affect cash credit score when the accounts are first closed. And so this is really a program for people that are experiencing financial distress. As far as fees are concerned, there's around $35 to $50 a month that are deducted from the monthly payment. And then the interest rates are generally reduced to around 7.99% or less. And if people are in extreme hardship, again, many of the lenders are willing to go down to as low as 0%. And these fees are also can be reduced based off of people that are experiencing extreme hardship as well. And so I would say, like, if you have clients that are in financial hardship because of credit cards, this is a really good program to consider. And you can actually connect with two certified agencies directly through the product. So Apprizin, they've been around for 30 years, and they actually have the best digital experience. So you can walk your client through the enrollment process directly through their website. And the only communication that has to be done has to could be through text message, or you can actually talk with the agency. And then from a Cambridge Credit Counseling, they've been around for 20 years. Their CEO is the chairman of the board for one of the major credit counseling certification um, nonprofits. And you can actually schedule a call directly from the app. So it actually will pull up a Calendly for your client to connect with a certified agent. And you can be on the line with them or you can refer to them. Either way would work there.
Josh, on this screen, I just love the pros and cons, the fees it's laid out. So often we're left with sort of holding the responsibility to explain it to the client. And this just gives you everything you need to share with a client who is trying to that you're working with, trying to manage their debt situation. I just love that this screen because it gives you everything a coach needs. You don't have to recreate the wheel or think of the right answers because they're all right here. I just love that.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah. And I think like having these conversations with the client and being able to talk to them about like, this is like, here are your options versus like, hey, I'm just going to refer you off to another provider. It's giving them that pretext around like, this is why we think that this is the right solution for them. Um, let's change the questionnaire and let's say like, when would a snowball or avalanche be the right fit? And so at least from the engine perspective, if we were to change this to say, I cover my monthly expenses, but it feels tight, this would actually change it where it's worth exploring the snowball or the avalanche because ultimately it's pushing the client to say, okay, hey, it's tight, but can we free up a little bit of cash flow through other means that actually makes the snowball or the avalanche make sense? And then maybe we say instead of $50 per month, we increase it to $100 per month. Um, and then maybe we say this person actually still has a very good credit score. And let's see how that changes the recommendations that are populated inside of the app. And what I'm thinking here is it's actually going to, so yeah, uh, what came up here is now the avalanche and the snowball are recommended. And while the interest rate is a little bit higher and the payments are higher, the consumer doesn't have to enroll into a formal program and they're getting out of debt around the same time. And so it's worth considering like, hey, if we're experiencing financial hardship, it's worth or like extreme financial hardship, it's worth checking out a debt management plan. But now let's take a look at the snowball and the avalanche. And we'll look at the avalanche because we can see that there's less interest. So again, we have the pros and the cons. So the pros, accelerating debt paydown faster than minimum payments. It improves credit utilization, which could positively impact your credit score, but it requires extra cash flow, and payoff times may still be too long for people with substantial debt. We have the paydown order, and actually, this is an important toggle. So if you're working with someone that has more than unsecured debt, you can click all debt, and it will actually pull in the non-secured debt into the snowball and the avalanche. So I'm gonna do that right now, and now you can see it actually pulled in the Nelnet student loan, and so that's included in the plan. And you have the paydown order, the starting balance, payoff date, interest paid, and then the amortization schedule down below. And you can actually create a PDF version as an artifact that you can send to the client. And then so I'm going to show real quick what that looks like. And this is really beneficial for people that aren't as tech savvy. For if you want to send in a follow-up email, hey, here's the debt avalanche plan that we put together. And it actually will show you the payoff time. It'll have a nice graph that shows when the different debts will be paid off. And then it has the debt plan with the payoff order that we looked at, and then also the amortization schedule. Similarly, we have another approach for people with the who are interested in a debt management plan. If you want to send them the agencies without sending them their account, you can also click the share button and it will actually send you a link or show you a link that you can share with the client. And they can actually go in and choose their provider without logging in. And so you can actually see the ratings and you connect directly with the debt management plan provider as well. The last piece of this is we have a relationship with Happy Money, which is a personal loan lender for consolidation. And we did a lot of due diligence around them as well. the main benefits with Happy Money are they don't have early payoff fees. Their rates are really competitive. And when you look at, we did a pretty big inspection around predatory lending practices and compared them to multiple providers. And Happy Money was the one that came out on top. But we actually have a direct integration where clients can actually get pre-approved without doing a hard pull on their credit directly through the app. That being said, personal loans and balance transfer loans, as you all know, are oftentimes not the right solution for a client if they are not cash flow even. And it's really important when you're working with them to, hey, like there's a lot of benefits. Like you can lower your payments, you get a fixed repayment timeline, you can um, lower the interest rates. But if the person is still actively using their credit cards, then as a result, they have a risk of racking up more credit card debt plus the personal loan. And people that are in a vulnerable position, this is especially high of a risk because like they're on the seat of their pants right now, right? And so it's important if they are going to use this strategy to make sure that they are in a cash flow neutral position versus hey, this is your lifeline right now, just taking out a personal loan. And so I would just use caution while recommending a personal loan, and the same holds true for balance transfer cards. I would usually point more towards Avalanche or Snowball or a debt management plan if you're working with people who are experiencing financial distress and are not cash flow even or close to it after there's a payment or cash flow concessions from the strategy that you're leveraging. So that was definitely a whirlwind. You can enroll in Budge completely for free and create your coach account by going to budge.app. It'll ask you if you're a coach or a client when you enroll. And then from there, you'll be able to invite clients directly to the program. Um, I'm a resource for you as well. So we'll make my email available. So if you're working with the client where you're just not sure or the solutions that you're seeing for this client don't make sense based off of the information that you're having. Like this is my career mission is to help people get out of debt, avoid predatory solutions, find the best trustworthy holistic solutions for them. And so please use me as a resource if you need to pick someone's brain. And also if you ever have feedback while you're using the app, I'm like feel free to reach out as well. So I know we're just at 9:28 Pacific time. I'll hand it
Yeah,
back to you, Chris.
yeah, Josh, a couple of questions. Medical bills is one of those areas that often arises because, um, as you would imagine, oftentimes, right, they're trying to take care of their spouse, and it doesn't work, and they're stuck with all of these huge medical debts. Maybe bill versus debt, but is there a way to, the question is, how are high medical bills associated with husband's last hospital stay? Perhaps can Budge help with that?
Yeah, so the ways that we would help with that are going to be focused on Snowball and Avalanche. But I think something that I need to do some more research on is what tools are available for people who are experiencing medical debt. And so I'll take that as a takeaway from this call and see if there are special programs that have a blanket approach. I think, or go for it.
Yeah, there's most, I'm not sure if I can say most, research doesn't bear that out, but many organizations, equipment rental, hospitals, hospice, they will work out a plan. And they basically, it's some bereavement gratuity, if you will, where, we have cases where, $200,000 have been shaved off. So not a small amount in a $250,000 bill. I experienced that directly. And so I always try to negotiate if there's hospital debt, I always try to negotiate it, and it almost always can be negotiated, at least in some sort of payment plan or a grace period due to bereavement. And it's just a conversation that you would have on behalf of the client or with the client, in contacting that provider. But yeah, so that would be one question. The other question is, if a client goes with a debt agency, does this affect their taxes if any debt is actually written off?
It does not. And so debt settlement does affect taxes because you're actually getting concessions on the debt amount. And so you're taxed on the savings there. But on a debt management plan, it's actually reducing the interest rate, but you're still paying back the balance. So it does not show up on your taxes.
Good. That's a nuanced question. So thank you for that
Yep.
clarification. That makes a lot of sense. Um, any other questions? I know we're right at our time. Those were the two that were outstanding. I don't see any others coming in. Coaches, the Budge is available. You can see it, read all about it, and there are links on our debt management hub. If you have not visited our website and checked out the debt management hub under resources, you can do that. But you will also see Budge show up in the intranet site under coaches resources, where there'll be additional information, Josh's information, and as well as links, so you can go right to the app. Okay, so that'll be appearing here this week, probably today or tomorrow. It's being worked on. Anything else, coaches? I don't see any other questions. Okay. Well, Josh, I want to thank you. I think it's a wonderful product. I love it. It's A to Z. You start with the debt, the questions, the solution, and you can actually get in touch with them or without them with the solution provider. I mean, I just think that's a fantastic turnkey approach. And for coaches, something like that to have to talk about the value that we're providing to our clients now that we weren't able to provide before. It's a wonderful thing. So I really appreciate that. Coaches, any feedback, please share with myself or with Josh. Other than that, I will thank Josh again. Thank you, coaches, and we'll let you all go. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Josh, I heard just got in. Thank you, Chris and Josh. Great tool.
Amazing.
We'll see if anything else rolls in here while I got you. I'll go ahead and kill the.
Yeah, I think we need to make maybe do some co-collateral on medical debt.